Warlord, Saga of the Storm, Into the Accordlands, story number 18, To Seek is to Dream, by Westley Youngren. A horrifying grin emerged in the darkness with 1,000 hungry eyes. Niels could not move, frozen in fear by the nightmare in front of him. "You are mine," an indescribable voice whispered in Niels's mind. Violently and without warning, tentacles began to burst from Niels's mouth. Niels shot from his bed, heart racing, soaked in his own sweat. It had happened again. For the past week, Niels had been plagued by terrifying dreams. Dreams where something was chasing him, no, hunting him. These dreams always ended the same, jagged and twisted tendrils bursting from his mouth. He could feel the aches in his jaw from where they had forced their way out. Enough, Niels thought to himself. He had a job to do. He had been trusted with the opportunity to help his mentor with a project that could bring the Seekers even closer to the sun. He would not let bad sleep or silly dreams get in the way. After a quick splash of water to the face, Niels gathered his gear, put on his apron, and made his way through Everseek. It was not long before he arrived at Lyca's laboratory, where he was met at the door by his fellow tinker, Master Otto Armstrong. "You look terrible, Niels," stated Otto with an observational bluntness common among the Seekers of the Sun. "Just a few late nights, nothing more," Niels said with a desire to brush off any concerns. Niels was not sure why he hid his dreams. He supposed it felt childish to be plagued by nightmares, and he did not want to appear a child in front of great tinkers like Otto and Lord Lyca. Niels and Otto made their way into the laboratory. The lab was an awe-inspiring place, truly wonderful. There were innovations everywhere, from the Zith-powered heavy operating suits to steam-driven drilling wagons. If Everseek was the hub of innovation, Lyca's lab was its heart. "Hurry! You two are late!" shouted a voice from above. Niels and Otto made their way upstairs, where they saw Lord Lyca engulfed in a bright green mist that was almost synonymous with the refinement of Zith. Before either of them could greet their cantankerous old mentor, he'd already begun to bark orders. "Otto, take some refined Zith and begin filling the tank in the auxiliary building. Niels, help me move the propulsion chamber into place." Lyca was never one for small talk. Niels and Otto had worked with him for several months now, and were still treated like mere apprentices. Yes, they were honored to work with such a renowned seeker, but Niels couldn't help but feel that their talents were being wasted. Both he and Otto had proven themselves as master tinkers with a long history of successful inventions, Otto with his aeronautical mechs and Niels with his rail system. Yet, here they were, after long and celebrated careers, reduced to fueling tanks and moving items into place. Worst of all, Lyca still refused to tell them what they were working on. Explanations would only cause confusion, which would require further explanations, which would only waste time better spent elsewhere, Lyca would bark. Regardless of their annoyance, Niels and Otto had been entrusted with something that must be important, so they continued in the name of productivity. "Niels, you cannot be falling apart on me. We are so close, and we cannot afford you to get sick," Lyca snapped at Niels when he observed his disheveled appearance. "I'm fine, just haven't been sleeping well," retorted Niels. "Well, fix it, or I will replace you. Now bring me that beaker of Zith." "Yes," shattered the beaker as Niels dropped it in fright. Niels frantically patted his face. He could have sworn he saw things worming under his skin when he peered into the reflection of the beaker. Lyca quickly turned around to see the fuel, and a shattered beaker had been spilt all over the floor. "You fool! That will take weeks to refine again!" Lyca shrieked. Lyca looked again at his student. Something was off. He seemed green. "Are you going to be sick?" Lyca asked with a slight air of concern, but with more calculation of its impact on today's work. Niels collapsed to the floor, holding himself up on all fours. "Otto, come help Niels. He's hurting productivity." Niels began to gag. "No, you will not get sick all over my lab, Niels. I will not have it," Lyca ordered. Niels looked up sharply at Lord Lyca. A grin began to overtake his face. "Niels, what are you doing? I demand you answer me." Fear crept into Laika's normally commanding tone. Dark and oily tentacles burst from Niels's open mouth. They flooded from him like water breaching a cracked dam. Niels's jaw broke open and his skin shredded as the tentacles continued to pour from his face. Lord Laika retreated to the back of the room in terror, trying to avoid the swarm of tentacles spewing from Niels's corpse. They began to heap together in the center of the room, pulsing and twisting. As Laika watched the tentacles growing larger with every throb, his voice gave way. He could only watch as a figure grew from the tendrils. At last, a dark and tall creature with a menacing grin and 1,000 eyes peered through him. "I have come for you, Laika," whispered Allrain Gaunt. Laika stood frozen in terror as the nightmare advanced. The tentacles began to enclose around the motionless Laika. Bam! A large explosion from behind shook the building. From the smoke of the explosion, Otto emerged holding a whizzing bombardier in both hands, surrounded by a flurry of small, flying automatons. Allrain turned his attention, and with a gesture of his hand, a wave of tentacles advanced towards Otto. Otto rapidly reconfigured his bombardier to shoot a burst of flames, burning the tentacles as they continued to advance. With each tentacle he defeated, a monstrous shriek could be heard deep inside of Otto's own mind. While Otto was occupied, Allrain mustered more tentacles from below, grasping Laika in their sinewy clutches. "I have come for you, Laika," Allrain whispered. Quickly, Otto incinerated most of the grasping tendrils in front of him, enough to have a clear shot on the creature with the menacing grin. With a quick shift of gears, Otto transformed the flamethrower back into a bombardier. He took aim and fired it directly into the nightmare that grasped Lord Laika. A large explosion shook the building and sent Otto crashing into the wall behind him. Otto awoke in the infirmary, surrounded by sentinels of the sun. They explained to him, in their monotone speech, that he was the only body they were able to pull from the wreckage of Laika's laboratory. Otto was confused. Where did Laika and Niels go? Who or what was that creature, and what did it want? Otto would find the answers to his questions. He would find his mentor. But before too long, exhaustion overtook Otto, and he succumbed once again to his fatigue. But that night, and for many nights to come, Otto would not find solace in his slumber. From now on, Otto's dreams only whispered to him, "You are mine." Thank you for listening. Please subscribe and check back for the next chapter in the story, story number 19, Discipline and Dynamite, by Greg Melnick.